Hello, and thank you for watching the last aftrART artist interview with Clare Benson. Clare is a rising star in contemporary photography. In 2017, she was ASU's guest faculty. She won the Photo Lucida Book Prize. She published her first monograph, A Shepherd's Daughter. She is making serious waves in a very short amount of time. That being said, this video was recorded in April of 2017. So I'm sure that some of the stuff that we mention in the video is a little out of date, might be a little bit confusing, which is why I wanted to kind of preface it with this information. It was just one of those things where my perfectionist mind got the best of me, and I really wanted to really put out a very polished video. But honestly, it took me 10 months to get this out. It's not gonna be perfect, but that doesn't make what she's saying any less valuable. Seriously, I was editing this video and I really was very inspired to start looking for opportunities to get my work out there. If you are looking into either breaking into the contemporary fine art photography world or just the fine art world in general, Clare's words of wisdom are astounding and so helpful. So be sure to watch this video all the way through, take notes, get inspired, and enjoy. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So I graduated from Central Michigan University with my Bachelor of Fine Arts in 2008, and then I went on, I had about a year between undergraduate and graduate school, and went to University of Arizona for my master's degree. After graduating, I went to Sweden on a Fulbright fellowship. I had applied a couple years in a row and got it the second time, so I came back here soon after going back and forth with that project in Sweden, and now I'm visiting faculty at ASU.
So why did you decide to pursue fine art? And do you feel like, you know, the experiences you've had in the master's degree, how has that kind of opened doors for you since you made that decision?
I knew from a young age that I wanted to be an artist. My mom always encouraged us when I was really young to be creative, and we were always drawing and running around out in nature and building things. And so I felt like I was always wanting to be creative and do creative things when I was really young. And my mother passed away when I was 11, and that was a really big part of what I became as an artist. I think that experience and the memory of that time and her illness and death. And so I remember really soon after her death that I thought, well, now I'm definitely going to be an artist, that I was sort of following the path that I think she would have wanted for herself as well. And so that was something that I never really thought twice about, I guess, and I never knew what it would look like to be an artist or what that actual career path would be. Toward the end of undergrad, one of my professors told me that I could think about graduate school, both for the possibility to teach later on, but also just to really develop my art practice and really develop more of a community, which was a big part of it. And I think just the challenge of it was something that I wanted to. Like, I think I saw that as a possible next step, and I liked the idea. I had a good experience with my undergrad, and I developed really good relationships with my mentors, so I felt like it was a good next step to really dig deeper into that and develop that more.
You have gotten a lot of recognition in a very short amount of time, and I'm guessing that was not just sheer luck. And you've already mentioned you applied to the Fulbright scholarship multiple times, and that's a very competitive scholarship. So can you talk a little bit about pursuing opportunities, and kind of what it takes mentally to dedicate yourself to getting your work out there?
It's taken a lot of work, and I mean, just to think back on when I started doing that, and I was just out of undergrad, and we weren't really encouraged to be, we were encouraged to be exhibiting, but there wasn't a lot of pressures to be exhibiting or to be doing things. But it was a really small program that I was in, and so there wasn't that level of competition that I think exists in other programs and communities. So, but it was something that I always sort of held over my own head, and I think that's something that a lot of people do, is that you sort of set that expectation It's not always realistic, but it gives you something really to work towards. And I started applying for things when I was just out of undergrad. I was applying for exhibitions, and I applied for grants. I got a grant. It was my final semester actually in undergrad to do a painting project. Actually, it was something that I wanted to pursue, and that was really the beginning of applying for things and getting actual funding for a project. And I didn't get a lot, and so I think just getting used to rejection and getting used to that response to the work is really good to get familiar with and sort of be able to brush off and keep moving forward. So I started really targeting the ones that were especially free or like $10 for the fee. And certain ones I made a decision, if they were much more than that, then I thought about like, what is this worth? And it's a kind of a gambling game. So and it's hard to be gambling on yourself and your creative practice, which is really personal. But I think that's one of the biggest things for me that worked, is that I started getting recognition for things. I started getting awards. One of the first photos that I made in this newer series, or in the series that became the book, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was starting, but I just started applying for things with that, and I got accepted to speak at a conference, the SPE regional conference. And so I was getting opportunities even when I didn't know what the work was, and that was a little bit scary in some ways.
I think that's really important, because even I confront that when you're not sure how you're going to explain it. I think that's something that holds a lot of artists back.
Yeah. Overthinking about projects is something that holds us back from starting a project. And then once you start a project, then it's hard not to overthink and then feel like, well, this needs to be finite, it needs to have a beginning and an end, it needs to be defined by this really clearly laid out plan, and it doesn't always work like that. And I've kind of developed a respect for the process as it is, and as it changes all the time. So as you start working on things for like 6 years now, I've been working on that project, and my perspective of the whole thing changes every time you make new images. It fits into the whole series and it changes everything, and it's sort of constantly evolving.
Do you feel like getting an MFA has helped you stand out significantly?
It's hard to say what it's done, because I don't know what it would be like if I didn't have it, right? So it's hard to imagine what that is, but I do know that a lot of the opportunities, I was applying for a lot of things when I was in graduate school and working on different projects. And I got into things, and I got into like international shows that really made me think about how that would change my career, or how that was something that I really wanted to continue pursuing. But I don't think, I don't think being in the program made me get into that. I think making interesting work, and that's the biggest thing. And I think a graduate program helps you think about ideas and think about the translation of ideas into visuals that then can communicate something. So I think that was one of the big things about graduate school, but the other thing is really the community that I built in that space. And because you need, when you're applying for a lot of these things, even artist residencies, you need letters of recommendation. And I think when those come from professors who are at a major university, I think that's a lot different than boss from a job, or a colleague from whatever it is, or a family member. I don't know what you can get away with as far as that goes, but I think that was one of the big things. And I don't know that you would be without that. With an undergrad degree, you're still getting recommendations from your professors. I think there is something to the fact that they watch you go through this really intense time in graduate school too, which I think really helps them write a stronger recommendation, because they've seen you grow in really profound ways, and they've been part of it. They've encouraged you. They've seen you respond to certain challenges and obstacles. So I think that really, the relationships that are built in that space are really important and valuable.
What was your experience like publishing your first monograph, The Shepherd's Daughter? What did you learn from the experience? Why was it important for you to do something like that?
2 years ago, I would never have thought that this work would become a book if anybody were to ask me. I applied for the Photo Lucida Critical Mass Award, which is essentially the award, I think, consists of becoming a finalist, which they narrow down, close to 1,000 people apply. Then they select 200, the top 200 finalists, and then you move forward into the next round, which is to get into the top 50. And that's really kind of the big prize that I imagined from it. So I applied for that, and I actually 200 jurors see your work in that
Wow.
contest, so it's huge. I mean, it's one of the more expensive contests though, as well. So it was something that I felt like I was ready to apply for, though. When you get your work in front of that many people, it's something really valuable as well. So I found out that I was in the top 50, and it meant that all those people had seen the work. They're jurors that are from all different parts of the photo industry, so some of them could be gallery directors, curators, people who run different photo platforms online, people who publish magazines, books, all kinds of people who are related to the industry in some way. And there were a couple book publishers then that contacted me soon after they had seen my work, and they said, we're interested in this being a book. And I thought, whoa, that's something I never thought of. And I really wasn't prepared for it, because I consider the work an ongoing series. I don't know when it will be done. I kind of imagine that I might still be shooting for it when I'm in my 60s, if I live that long. It's not that old, maybe. So, I mean, to me, it was like, well, it's not ready to be a book. It's not done. But I had been contacted by a couple publishers who, like, one of which I knew other people who were working hard to get to know that publisher. And so I had started thinking about it, and considering some of the different elements of it. The cost of publishing a photo book is quite expensive in most cases. It's not paid for by the publisher. So that was an obstacle that I realized pretty quickly wasn't going to make this happen. So I sort of put it on the back burner, or thought, it's something to think about, but I would have to do some kind of crowdsourcing thing or fundraising of some kind to make it happen. And then Photo Lucida contacted me, and they said, based on the response from the judges, that they ranked your work very highly, and we'd like to consider your work for the book prize. So then it really became like, whoa, this could be a reality. So the process was really inspiring. I think I got to see a lot of the different ways that other people have done it, and take some influence and inspiration from that. And then I learned a lot about the limitations and everything that goes into publishing, and just how complicated it is. There's a lot of people that you're working with who have different roles in the project, so it's definitely a lesson in, like, letting go of your own expectations for what things are, and really working collaboratively and understanding different people's roles in that job or in that project. So it was huge, and I learned a lot of things that I would do different. I learned a lot of the things that I would want to be the same. It was a really big learning experience, and I'd love to do more books. It really inspired me to think about doing more.
So what interests you about possibly publishing books in the future?
There's a lot, actually, that interests me as far as books go. Just having the experience of having published that one book, it opened up a lot of possibilities, I think, for me, and understanding how the work could speak as a book in that form, but also how accessible it is to people and audiences. I think when you think about your work being in exhibitions or on the gallery walls, only specific audiences are seeing it, only people that are going to that museum, and only people who are in that city where it's being shown. And it also, so the book opens up opportunities for many more people to see it, but I think it also is a nice opportunity and access for people to have it, for people to keep it and be with it, and share it, because that's another thing, that a lot of people aren't going to go into the gallery and buy all of their favorite work, right? I mean, some people would, that'd be great, but most people wouldn't do that, right? And so it's less accessible as a medium to bring home and experience throughout your daily life. So a book opens up that opportunity. I mean, a book is something that you can keep on the shelf. It's relatively inexpensive. It's something that you can return to whenever you want, or you can be thinking about a specific piece and have access to it. So I think having and really having like a whole body of work that exists in that one place, because even when you have stuff on the website, like my website doesn't have as much as what the book has. There's some stuff that's missing from the book that the website has, but it's really a chance to show a lot more work and have it be accessible to so many more people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and now that your book is out, now that you've been a part of Critical Mass and some other really major high-level awards, how has that kind of changed the way that people see you or see your work? Do you feel like you have a lot more attention now?
Yeah, I think the book has been one among several things that have been happening lately. I mean, I know the Fulbright Fellowship was something big that really pushed me, and was based on work that wasn't this photo series specifically. So, I mean, having the Fulbright, having now recently PDN, I was in PDN's top 30 or 30 new and emerging photographers. I was part of another emerging photography exhibition and prize that I'd been nominated for. And so I think, I mean, the book helps as a promotional tool, as well as to give you some cred in the art world, to really like kind of add to your package of the things that you've done and the places your work has been and the ways that it's been seen. So I think that having the book, but really having all of these other opportunities, I think it's all really cumulative. It's hard to pinpoint one thing that made everything happen, because a couple things happened that then really branched out into other opportunities. And so I think absolutely everything influences the next thing that comes or opens up opportunities for future things. And I think once you get a certain number of those under your belt and you sort of start collecting those accomplishments, then it's a lot more likely to get things in the future. Even people being familiar with your work or seeing it in one place, when they start becoming familiar with it, maybe not even remembering where they saw it, but they remember that they saw it, right? Yeah. And so that's important, because whether you won something or whether you were just in the running for something or you had just simply applied for something, getting people familiar with that work is going to be important. I think they're going to be more drawn to it if they've seen it multiple times and been able to experience it. So I definitely think that all of the accomplishments add to what you have to offer as an artist and what people think of you as an artist.
So it seems like you've been making new work, constantly since you maybe even graduated from undergrad, and I know it's really hard to keep up that pace. How have you managed to do that?
So when I graduated from undergrad, I didn't know what the next move was going to be, and so I knew maybe graduate school eventually, but I wasn't sure. I started doing some more commercial stuff that I knew would help pay the bills. I really wanted to force myself to continue making work, and one thing that I did was I just took a class to be continuing what that was. So I wasn't even in the program and it was done, but I was staying in the town that I went to school. So and I knew that I was going to stay there for a little bit and wanted to really have that chance to continue working. So I think having that too, like having that extra motivation was really good. Obviously a class or having somebody who's keeping you accountable as an instructor, they're gonna make sure you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. So that was helpful, but there was a period of time after that I moved back home for a bit. I was applying for different things. I wasn't getting into exhibitions. I was working commercially. I guess that was a big break in creative work, but it was really it was less than a year. And I think that really, I went to graduate school, and obviously that's a time where you're pushed to make as much as possible, so you're sort of constantly making. And then after school is when it can be really hard to continue on, especially if there's no opportunities that specifically keep you accountable for making that work. So, I think that was something that was really helpful for me to have specific opportunities, soon after I graduated, I was applying for things that essentially forced me to keep making the work. So I had these moments that really forced that development of the project even more. And so I think that was really helpful. I mean, I think there's something really valuable in letting yourself make work just to make work too, and not necessarily having a deadline that you're working towards or something to work towards, but those help. I mean, when you have an exhibition coming up, then you're not gonna put off the making of the work.
Yeah.
But I think also there's something really important in understanding like what it does to your soul if you're not making work, or if you're not letting out that creativity and like expressing it, putting it into something. I think there's a lot of things to put it into, like in life. So it's not like there's a lack of opportunity to do that, but just giving yourself the chance to make and sort of feed yourself in doing that. But it's not easy to find the time to do it when you're working a full-time job or anything like that. It can be really challenging. So I think finding opportunities that will help push and encourage you to do it and keep you accountable for it is going to be really important. And having a community of people who are also doing that, like surrounding yourself by the people who are doing what you want to do and living a life that you want to live.
And so do you have any advice to give to student artists or early career artists?
Just remembering that there's no right way to do it, or there's no one way to do it. None of it is calculatable, so even if you do all the things that you're supposed to do, I don't know if it is necessarily going to happen the way you expect. But I think that's really one of the biggest things, is try not to have expectations about what it will be, or that it will be like something else that you've seen somebody do. Trust the process. Trust that the amount of rejections you get is not something that defines you. Try to make work as much as you can. I mean, that's really the most important thing. I think even more than going and getting a master's, I think that's a good potential opportunity, and that's something that forces you to make work. But if you can find other ways to do it, then do that. If you're thinking about a master's program, there's a lot of programs to consider that offer full funding. There's programs that are low residency programs. So I think that school-wise there's a lot of possibility, but really just like have faith in the process and the time where they don't seem to be happening, or things aren't going your way, or how you expect. So, and just make.
So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video. You can find Clare on her website, clarebenson.com, and you can also purchase her book through her website as well. I will include links for both in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be out with another video very soon. I promise this time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.